Hello and welcome to a very special GG Weekend Watch sponsored by SBK, where we are going to be looking forward to the 2022 Royal Ascot meeting. I cannot wait for this year's meeting. It's set to be a really international meeting as well, where we have challengers coming from all over the world. So plenty to look forward to then across 5 days of top class action. Of course, on this week's show, we're going to be looking forward to the first 3 days, and I will be doing so in the company of just Andrew Mount on this occasion, as Daryl Carter takes a brief hiatus, but he will be back then for next week's show, where we will be looking forward to the final 2 days of action. But we still have plenty to get through then, Andrew and I, so I cannot wait for that. And of course, we will then be starting with day one, as is the way that we should really be doing things. But before we get into the action proper, I should just mention the big prize success we had on the show last week with the lads' selections. So I'm just going to rattle through those quickly before we get into the Royal Ascot action, because we had Hookham winning at 11-4 for Daryl on Friday, as well as the perhaps very fortunate, I'll still take it at this stage, Tuesday winning the Oaks for me at 13-2. Then on Saturday, we had Andrew's Nap, Mr. Wagyu, winning at 12-1. So a big well done to you then for that one, Andrew. Very impressive indeed. And it didn't stop there, though, because Andrew also had Hu Yamal placing at 150-1. What a shout that was. But Daryl, not to be undone by that, also had Masakela placing at 66-1 as well. So ridiculous prices for the pair of those two, reaching the frame then for the lads. And so hopefully that big prize success will continue into Royal Ascot this week. And we begin with day one. And what a cracker this is going to be, because we start with one of the most anticipated races of the entire week in the Queen Anne, which comes up at 2:30. Of course, it's a Group 1 for 4-year-olds and over a mile, where we have the best racehorse in the world on official rankings, Baaeed, who should take all the beating here, Andrew. So how do you play this opener?
I think the angle here is to back the Baaeed Real World Straight Forecast, or Tote Exacta. Now, of course, Real World's a great horse in his own right. He's had 6 runs on turf, 5 wins and a second to Baaeed in the Lockinge. The battle between these two might end up becoming a little bit like Frankel and Celebration, where they kept finishing 1-2. Poor old Celebration, a great horse in his own right, but he just happened to be around when Frankel was. Could be the same for Real World here. So, I mean, you're going to probably be getting something like 7-4, 2-1 for the forecast. And if you want to back Real World 8 to each way, you can get a little bit of 8-1 at the moment. Now, because this could cut up, into sort of 7 runners or fewer. So maybe now is the time to do that, to make sure you get those 3 places anti-post. The other one that's potentially each way angle is Sabuska, who was 3rd last year. And but yeah, I think Baaeed will win. I think Real World will finish 2nd.
Oh, I like that a lot then. So going for the exacta then with Baaeed to beat Real World, who, now that they finally accepted that he's not a dirt horse, he does not like running on the dirt. And hopefully now they will just continue to run him on the turf. But as you say, he's probably just going to continue to bump into Baaeed as he did last time out in the Lockinge. But at a bigger price than Sabuska, if you wanted another option there. Andrew's given you a fair few. So no complaints there for betting angles into the Queen Anne. Right, up next we have the Coventry Stakes, which is a Group 2 for the 2-year-olds over 6 furlongs at 3:05. Now, I love one horse in here, Andrew. I absolutely adore Blackbeard so far from the Ballydoyle team. After his win last time out, I'm expecting them to keep him 6 furlongs, especially because they have the favourite for the Norfolk anyway in the Antarctic. So hopefully Blackbeard will stick to the 6 furlongs here. And he won over it last time out. So that's what he's getting again in the Coventry. And this horse, he just has such a quick stride cadence. And considering that and his action, he actually he's not been found out on yielding or good to yielding ground then on a couple of his starts anyway. So I'm not worried in the slightest what the weather does. It's meant to be a dry forecast anyway. But hopefully that will even play to Blackbeard's advantage. And for him to win by 3.5 lengths last time out in the Group 3 Marble Hill Stakes, the promise of more to come, that makes him the horse to beat for me in the Coventry at this stage, with that racecourse experience to his name as well. But Andrew, if that is my selection out the way, who do you fancy?
Yeah, I can't argue with you there.
Oh, I mean, wonderful.
I was taken with his narrow victory over Crispy Cat, because I'm a big Crispy Cat fan.
Yeah.
And Yeah, in this case, he was even more impressive last time out. And if you look at the record of US bred favourites in this race, 7 of the last 14 have won for a profit of £12.63. So Blackbeard not certain to go off as favourite, but certainly interesting on that stat if he does. I thought he had a very solid chance. Persian Fours, I'm not sure which race he's going to go for, but he'd be interesting for this one as well. And one a bigger prize, Waiting All Night, who bids to follow in the footsteps of his sire who won this. And he looked to be crying out for the step up to 6 furlongs when 5th at Sandown last time out. And I thought James Doyle was a good booking, given how well he rides the straight course at Newmarket. But I was, at this very early stage, Blackbeard over Waiting All Night.
I'm so pleased. I can't remember the last time the pair of us two properly agreed on something. So Blackbeard, but Waiting All Night was probably going to be a much bigger price than Blackbeard, admittedly, than in here. And James Doyle, like I say, is already booked up. And as we'll be talking, we'll be getting sort of more information then being relayed through as we record on Thursday afternoon here about potential jockings up and such like then going forwards. So we move on to the 340. We have the Group 1 Kingston Stakes for 3-year-olds and over 5 furlongs at 340, where the European horses are going to be readily booted out of the way, I think, here with the international contingent, and won't see basically which way they go. As we have Wesley Ward's best horse he has ever trained, according to the trainer himself, then Golden Pal back. We also have the Australian superstar Nature Strip over to have his 28th career start. And again, sorry to butt in here first, Andrew, but I just wanted to cover Nature Strip because I love him. He's a quirky customer. But if he is on his A game here, they won't see which way he goes, in my opinion. And if he wins this and he wins this well, he could well be turned out again just 4 days later to step up in trip and take his chance in the Platinum Jubilee Stakes with superstar jockey Jamie Carr, who has flown over just in the hope that he does take his chance in that race, or else she may not have any rides whatsoever. So the Aussies think that they will go home with the winner with Nature Strips then. From this year's Royal Ascot, and he'll just blast them. So, yeah, which speedster do you like, though, Andrew?
Not Golden Pal.
Not Golden Pal.
No, he's been over here twice before, and he's been beaten twice before. So, I'd certainly have, your Aussie speedster, Nature Strip, in preference to the American horse. I mean, look at that last run at York. He finished 7th, didn't he, Golden Pal, being 5 lengths behind Winter Bower. I mean, I know he wasn't beaten far behind the Learjet at Royal Ascot in 2020, but there comes a point where this isn't a 2-bend race, is it? This is straight track at Royal Ascot, and listening to a hyped up American horse, from a very bullish trainer might get you in financial trouble. And we've seen plenty of short price ones get chinned. For every very impressive winning performance, there's probably a dozen or so who don't make the grade. So. Yeah, maybe don't believe the hype in the case of Golden Pal. Perhaps more so with Nature Strip, though, who I'd certainly respect. Of the British and Irish contingent, tricky, really. I've heard some people fancy Tis Marvellous because of his Ascot form, but I think he's outclassed. Arecibo was second to Oxted last year when I napped him. And he was disappointing at Newmarket, but last time out, I thought he ran a really good race in the Temple Stakes to finish 3rd at 28-1. He did best of those to come down the near side from their high draws, so I wouldn't put you off that one each way again. Existent, another Tom Morley horse. I thought he had little to race with down the stand side of the Temple. If you watch that race, they split into 2 distinct groups soon after the start, and there were only 4 runners down the near side. And he raced freely as a result, nothing to race with that day. I thought in the circumstances, 5th place was a fair effort. I know Darryl fancied him that day, and he's going to be about 50-1 for this race. And they're going to go like the absolute clappers. I really think it will suit him. You're only looking for a horse to finish 3rd, could be 5 lengths back or even further, and you're still getting an each way return. Mon Damage wouldn't be without, a sort of chance of 3rd or 4th place at a ridiculous price. He's another one who likes to come off a very strong gallop. He'll enjoy the fast ground. Munista as well wasn't totally out of it, but I won't be backing either of the front 2. If I had to choose one, I'd back Nature Strip and a match bet to beat Golden Pal. But I'll just be looking to fire off each way arrows on the day, probably Existent and Arecibo.
Okay. Mondamage didn't make the final cut then for the each days on the day. Thank the Lord. I thought that you had been drinking the bubbly there, the prop
Well,
champagne.
I've got the bubbly, but unfortunately, given it's a working day, it's just the Diet Coke that's going into it this time. So cheers.
Andrew has completely broken the fourth wall there for all viewers out there. The fact that, yes, that these are just props, and like I say, middle of the day, wait until next week at least, and then we'll be on the proper stuff, the pair of us. But as long as it's going down the same way and in the same volume, then we're all happy, Andrew. But
exactly.
Yeah, each way plays on the day. But if you had to pick between the top two, I'm glad that you're siding with the Aussies and not the Americans then in that race. Right, the 420, because these races, they just keep getting better and better on day one, don't they? As up next, we have the Group 1 St. James's Palace Stakes for 3-year-olds over a mile, where Caribus bids to win again after his success in the 2000 Guineas. He's been safe for this, Andrew, so will he go on to win it?
Yeah, tricky one. There's a lot of people connected to the Charlie Appleby stable who say Caribus is going to be a much better horse than Native Trail. Oh. Now, of course, Caribus beat his stablemate in the 2000 Guineas. At first, I thought, well, maybe he was flattered because he was drawn low. There was a very strong draw bias at Newmarket that day. I called it completely wrong. I thought you'd want to be drawn high. It was the opposite. So Caribus has won. Native Trail performed miracles, I thought, to finish as close as he did from that poor draw in stall 15, because he came out and won next time out. But the general consensus from the yard is that Caribus is going to prove to be the better horse in time. And even though, maybe he was a shade flattered by the draw, still got to give him every chance in this race. He's only been beaten once in his career, and that was by a neck in Group 2 company, second time out, when it might have been a big step up from his debut effort. 2-1, I couldn't get involved in that sort of price. You know me, I'll be looking at ones at bigger prices. If we got rain, that looks unlikely though. Then Angel Blur would have a chance. That one's ground dependent, and has been written off fairly quickly after that comeback defeat. The one I really like though is Lusail for Richard Hannum. Now, I don't know what price you got there. I think I saw about 40-1 the last time. Now he was poorly drawn in the 2000 Guineas as well in stall 12 and 15. And he really caught the eye with good late work down that standside rail, like Native Trail. And he was an 80-1 6th of 15 that day. It was a cracking effort in the circumstances. And at first I thought, well, maybe they're going to cut back and trip and go to the Commonwealth Cup. Then you think, well, actually, no, you look at the way he was staying on in the swamp, down the near side. You couldn't say that the mile isn't going to suit. So I'd rather back him each way. And I think the key as well is a strong pace. You look at his record in fields of 10 or more runners. He's at 5 runs, 4 wins, and that's 6 in the 2000 Guineas from a poor draw. His stable won this with Barney Roy in 2017. They've had some horses run well in defeat since. So I'm hoping it doesn't cut up too many from the current 14 declared. Hope we get sort of 10 or 12 runners, and that Lusail can give us a good run for our money at an each way price.
Yeah, a big each way price as well. Like say 40-1 is what I can see at the current time of recording them for Lusail. If you don't want to take the 1-2, then about Caribus at the head of the market, looking for any sort of potential each way plays. Well, Andrew got it right last weekend with those each way plays, so hopefully it'll be the same case again there for Lusail in the 420. Right, the 5 o'clock. Nice easy one up for now, Andrew. It's the Ascot Stakes, which is a 0-100 heritage handicap for 4-year-olds and over 2 mile 4. Some fascinating runners in here, including Pied Piper, no less, the outstanding juvenile hurdler from last jump season. So, Andrew, very easy task this, of course. Have you solved it?
Yeah, well, this used to be a race you could narrow down with the draw, and it often used to pay to be drawn low because the bend came up quite quickly. That sort of stat went out the window after a while when all the winners were sort of coming late and wide down the middle of the track from high draws. You used to be able to sort of rely on those near the head of the weights as well. That angle seems to have disappeared a little bit as well. And really just siding with anything Willie Mullins sends out is been quite a positive in recent years. He's only got 2, which surprised me. I thought he'd have more entered this year. He's got Bring on the Night. He was 4th in the Supreme Novices Hurdle. He bombed out at Punchestown. But I thought he was interesting back on the flat. Micromanages his other one, but I didn't think he stayed when he was 9th to Buzz in the Cesarewitch last season. So I prefer Bring on the Night of the Mullins pair. Last year's winner, Rishun, was at 66-1 shot when scoring. It's probably going to be underrated. And Again, it won't be that price this time, but I still think he could run a good race. And I was fascinated to see Sam Thomas had two runners here. One of those, Paddys Motorbike, was a 25-1 fifth in the 2019 Queen Alexandra Stakes over a slightly longer trip here, on unfavourable terms that day. And you look back at his previous form, for when he was trained on the flat, they used to try and hold on to him, and he used to race keenly as a result, and perhaps not always find as much in the finish as it looked likely. And I know it's going to be hard to make all the running in a field of this nature, but I thought Paddys Motorbike, an improver over hurdles from the front since we've last seen him on the flat. I thought for Sam Thomas, jumps yard, that he could go really well here.
Oh, 33-1, yeah. We have the current time of recording them for Paddys Motorbike for Sam Thomas. Like I say, it's a fascinating collection of trainers and different horses in here, understandably so, with the dual purpose horses therefore. But yeah, Paddys Motorbike, 10-year-old at 33-1. Good way to go then. I thought you might just pass on this race, but fair play to you. I should have given you more respect then for that, Andrew, as it was. Yes. So the 5:30 is up next. This is the listed Wolferton Stakes for 4-year-olds and over a mile too. And it'll be fascinating to see if Addeybb takes up this engagement back in listed company here, getting away from some of his lesser rated rivals as well. So Andrew, Addeybb looks fascinating to me as a potential runner. But who do you like?
He's a cracking horse because he's won 50% of his turf starts, 12 from 24. But really, he's dependent on softer ground. I think they're calling it good to soft in places at the time of recording. We've got a dry forecast. I can imagine we'll be watering before the first race on Tuesday. So I'm not convinced that Addeybb is going to be one to side with. The ground's probably going to be too quick. He's going to be beyond his best. And his age, the years are catching up with him, I think. So there's last year's winner, Juan Elcano, who would be of interest again. And it used to be a very hard race to win under prominent tactics, but Juan Elcano did that last year. And Universal Order, who's a horse we've talked about a couple of times recently on Weekend Watch. When he rocked up at Goodwood after a very long break, I thought he might run some sort of race. Obviously needed that, and then he improved next time out, placing. And I thought Ascot's going to be ideal for him. We see quite a few, Simcock horses, the blessings of this world who sneak into the places at big prices, just under patient tactics. So hopefully there's going to be a pace on, and Universal Order can get in the first 3 or 4 here. He'd be my each-way pick.
And another 33-1 shot as well there for Universal Order. So just firing the big guns left, right, and centre is Andrew for this for day one of Royal Ascot anyway. But other selections and other betting opportunities available behind those favourites as we see. Now, the final scheduled race that we have for day one, or the final race on day one, is at 6:10. This is the Copper Horse Stakes, or the Copper Bottom Stakes, as Hughie Morrison has now dubbed it. But it is a not. So he heard it the other day, and he says that he keeps wanting to call it the Copper Bottom Stakes, and so I officially anoint it as that now for its title, thanks to Hughie. It's a 0-105 handicap for 4-year-olds and over a mile 6, and honestly, God knows, Andrew, so it's over to you.
Yeah, I think Copper Bottom is certainly at the arse end of the card, isn't it? The last race, and we are scraping the copper barrel a bit as well with this one. It was only introduced last year. Because wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, 2 years ago, COVID.
2 years, yeah.
It's not really a race that I'm going to spend too long on. 60-odd runners, conditions race, and no sort of stats or patterns or angles really to go on. I see Paddys Motorbike is entered in here as well as that 2.5 mile race, so I'd have to throw a couple of quid at him if he lined up. But yeah, it's one that needs a lot more work between now and next Tuesday.
I think that is more than fair, Andrew, and I don't blame you whatsoever, especially with our joint entries as well. Then across the 2 races, staying races on the day, yeah, there definitely needs more work. So that is all the scheduled races, Andrew. All that is left for me to do is to get to your nap, please, of day one.
I think I'd have to go for the forecast, Baaeed to beat Real World. It sounds, that's daring as a forecast. It's probably going to pay 7-4 or 2-1.
Yeah, but still, though, if you had a nap going in at that price, then you'd be delighted. So, yeah, but a good way of playing the nap system, I must admit. And you know what? I'm going to go Addeybb to take his chance in the Wolferton. hopefully the ground then won't hinder him and he'll just be a class above his rivals regardless of what the weather does. And hopefully he'll go for the Wolferton instead of the Group 1 Prince of Wales is on the Wednesday, because realistically he's not going to beat Baaeed in that, is he? So why not make the most of a perfect opportunity and win a Royal Ascot race in the listed Wolferton? And I said that was all I needed from you. No, it's not, because I need your outsider of day one as well, please, Andrew.
Well, that's going to be Lusail in the St James's Palace Stakes at 4:20. Hopefully can reverse 2,000 guineas form with Caribus.
Oh, very good. See, straight away, I should have asked you that one first, because you have a whole host of different outsiders of a day. I'm not going to lie, I have not got an outsider of a day for day one. I need to do some more work for that then to come up with an outsider. But that is us covered then for day one. Do stay tuned for, well, a lowdown or a look ahead to day two of Royal Ascot with Andrew and myself.